Welcome to Storytime with Mama V. I'm your host, Victoria, but you can call me Mama V. In this show, we go on storytime adventures where magic exists, where brave knights and courageous princesses come out to play, and where the good always defies evil. Now, get comfy, because storytime is about to begin. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with Mama V. I have a very special story for you today, and this story actually comes from me. It's a true story, and it's a story of love and miracles. And couldn't we all use a little more love and miracles in this time? So here we go. Now, our story takes us back to December of 2020. Now, that was a time where the world was experiencing its first holiday season during the global pandemic. So there was a lot of uncertainty in the air. Things like COVID vaccines were just becoming a thing, and we lived in a lot of unknown. Where I live, we couldn't see family and friends, or we shouldn't have been getting together with family and friends. So there was a lot going on. But at the same time, a miracle happened. And let me tell you about that miracle. So it was a Friday night, and it was, as I mentioned, December 2020. And my daughter at the time was 3 years old, short of turning 4. She turned 4 in January, end of January. And it was a particularly lovely evening where we live, in that it was calm. There was snow on the ground, but not too terribly much snow that you couldn't get through it. And there was no wind. It was one of those perfect winter evenings. Now, I typically wander out on my lunch breaks to go for a walk. And on one of my walks, I discovered a block that was really nicely decorated for Christmas. And so I told my family about it, and I thought it would be a nice thing for our daughter to see some Christmas decorations because we couldn't really go anywhere and there was no attractions open, and she was so little. But we thought for her to see some of these houses all decorated with all sorts of lights and lawn decorations would be a treat. So because it's a winter evening, I bundled my daughter up in, pants and snow pants and her jacket. And on her hands, I put on 2 pairs of gloves. Her first pair was this nice fuzzy material gloves. And on them, it said girl power. One of the gloves said GRL and the other glove said power, I think. Or maybe it said girl power on the same glove. Anyways, that's not important. The gloves were called girl power. And over top of these girl power gloves, I put on these other gloves, these more waterproof mittens. And so we put her in this little red wagon and we go for a walk, and it's just magical. We get to this one particular house, and the owners of the house put an enormous polar bear on their lawn that was all lit up. And not only was it a huge lit up polar bear, it also was a polar bear that was in motion. So it would open its arms and close them as if it was giving you a hug. And sure enough, my little one wanted to run up and have a look at the bear and touch the bear. So she would take her gloves off and touch the bear and then put her gloves back on. And my husband kept reminding me, he said, please make sure that she has both of her sets of gloves back on. So I heard him in one ear, but to be honest with you, I was just enjoying watching our daughter enjoy the Christmas decorations and hugging this bear. And she was just in love with this silly thing. And so we stayed at this house for a bit, and then we walked around the block because there was quite a few houses with beautiful, beautiful decorations. There was, Minnie and Mickey Mouse on somebody's lawn, and then there was reindeer and all sorts of things. And then there was a house across the street from the polar bear house it was just incredible. There were so many decorations. And so, of course, she wanted to go up to each and every one of those decorations and explore them and touch them and just enjoy herself. And so she's doing this, and I'm trying to be, 21st century mom with my phone out, trying to take pictures of her while also simultaneously making sure that she doesn't fall on somebody's Christmas decoration, and she doesn't actually go up to people's doorsteps and starts knocking and asking for hot chocolate and cookies. She wouldn't have done it, but you never know. It was that kind of a evening. There was a lot of magic going on. So back and forth of looking at different decorations. And at one point, my husband says, does she have both sets of her gloves? And so I check her little hands, and sure enough, one of her girl power gloves is missing. Now, keep in mind, we live in Canada, so in December, it is dark. And so as we discover that one of the girl power gloves is missing, we start looking for it. So we're retracing our steps at all the houses where we went to look at decorations. I have my phone flashlight out, and we're looking at the path to see if we can find this little glove. And at this point, it just seems so hopeless because it's dark and it's winter time. And to be honest with you, I was almost of the mindset that, you know what? Okay, it happens. She lost a glove. These gloves don't cost a lot of money. We can always replace them, kind of a deal. But my husband was determined. He really, really wanted to find the glove. So it's getting later and it's getting colder, and I have just a wagon with me to take my daughter back to our house. It wasn't a terribly far walk, but it was still a good 10 minutes in the dark. And so we decide that I'm going to take her home, and he's going to continue walking up and down the street with his phone flashlight to see if he can find this little glove. And so we head back to our house, and on the way back, let me back up a step a little bit. Our daughter has a very special bond with both of us, very different bonds, but when it comes to her dad, she's very protective of him. And so she starts getting upset that he's there by himself in the cold, in the dark. So she's demanding that we go and pick him up. And who am I to say no to a little girl who wants to go and pick up her dad, who is trying to find her lost glove? And so I get her out of the wagon and I put her into our vehicle. We buckle up and we basically drove back. I mean, it was a 2-minute drive at most, and drove side by side as my husband walked the sidewalk to see if he could find the glove. So he can't find the glove, and I could see that he's upset, but he gets in the car, we get back to the house, and nobody's really saying much, and we just kind of wrap it up. Our daughter has her bedtime routine, and my husband is very quiet, and he's kind of preoccupied with his thoughts. And so I said, I know it's not ideal that we lost the glove, but it's not the end of the world. It's just a glove. It's just a mitten, really. And so we go to bed, and in the morning when we wake up, I look out the window, and the day that I'm looking at is not the same as the night before. What I mean by that is wind has picked up. It has gotten significantly crazier outside. Nothing what we experienced the night before. The night before really was a bit of a miracle weather-wise. And so I go to the kitchen to make some tea, make some coffee, warm up some milk for our daughter, and I noticed that my husband was not home. I noticed his vehicle is missing. So I thought, well, it's not unusual because he often goes to run errands on Saturday mornings. And so my daughter and I go about our morning. We have some breakfast, we hang out, and her dad is still not home. And probably, I would say it was mid-morning, closer to lunchtime. He comes in with a triumphant look on his face, and you're not going to believe this. In this crazy windstorm that had picked up that morning, he found the little glove. He found the girl power glove. And he found it in a very random place, not the place where we thought she lost it. But the point remains is that he brought the glove home, and until this day we have the set. And it's funny, to some people this story might sound like, well, no big deal, he went and he found her glove. But to us, to me, it's a story of love, a father's love for his child, and his determination of finding what's lost. And it's a story of a miracle because the type of wind that was blowing the following morning was not the type of wind which would have allowed for you to find a tiny mitten in the midst of the snow on a street. So I love telling this story because it's one of my holiday miracle stories. In the time when there was uncertainty and worry and just a lot of, a lot was going on in the world, and that little miracle, it was everything. And so this is how I'd like to wrap up our episode today. Please believe in miracles. Firstly, believe in love, and love will lead you to miracles. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to share this story with another listener who might need a reminder of tiny miracles. With all my love, thank you so much. Bye for now.